On March 21, 2002, 13-year-old Milly Dowler was snatched in broad daylight while walking home from school. Her remains were found months later. Despite an extensive search and investigation, it would take 9 long years before someone was brought to justice for this heinous crime. It turned out that man was already behind bars after being convicted of 2 murders and an attempted murder, all of which took place after Milly had disappeared. Amanda Jane Dowler, fondly known as Milly, was born to parents Sally and Bob Dowler on June 25, 1988, in Surrey, England. Her parents described her as a happy, vivacious, fun-loving girl. It's evident in how those who knew Milly spoke about her that she was deeply loved by those around her. Shortly after 3 p.m. on March 21, 2002, Milly left Heathside School and walked to the Weybridge rail station with a friend. The girls then hopped onto a train before getting off at a slightly earlier stop to grab a bite to eat at the station cafe. Milly rang her dad at 3:47 p.m. and told him she would be home in the next half an hour. The girls then left the cafe at 4:05 p.m. and Milly set off on her walk home. She made it past a bus stop, which was a 3-minute walk along the road, where a friend of her sister saw her. After that, Milly was not seen again. When she didn't arrive home that night, Milly was reported missing at 7 p.m. A search was immediately launched with around 100 officers joining to help look for the young teen. Her mum wanted to believe that Milly had run away, though she couldn't think of a reason why she would. As it approached the week after Milly's disappearance, the authorities said that they believed she had not been forcefully abducted. Their reasoning for this was due to the timing of her disappearance and the fact that no one had come forward to report any unusual incidents along the road. They theorised that Milly must have known the person she went off with and that she had left of her own free will. Even with this theory, they did continue to investigate leads and follow up on possible sightings of Milly. A potential breakthrough came when a body was pulled from the River Thames on April 23rd. There was much speculation about whether it belonged to Milly, but it turned out not to be her, but rather a 73-year-old woman whose death was deemed not suspicious. As the months passed with authorities seeming no closer to finding Milly, they had to break the fact to her parents. She was likely deceased. This worst-case scenario was released when a body was found on September 18th by mushroom pickers in Yateley Heath Woods, Hampshire. These remains were confirmed to belong to Milly Dowler through dental records. A cause of death could not be determined due to the advanced state of decomposition. Her body was nude and no items of hers were found on the scene. After this massive breakthrough, police now classed Milly's case as a homicide, and the Surrey police took charge of a new investigation known as Operation Ruby. Over 6,000 motorists were questioned in a November roadblock that was set up near where the body was found, but no persons of interest or leads came of this. The next lead came in March 2003 when DNA from an unknown male was found on an item of clothing in Milly's room. Police thought that Milly may have met with her murderer before, and this could potentially link her to someone, but within 3 months this was also ruled out. As the years passed, various things popped up in the case, but it seemed investigators didn't have enough to work with to tie anyone directly to Milly's murder. It wasn't until 6 years after Milly had vanished that a turning point came in the investigation. That turning point was 39-year-old Levi Belfield. In February of 2008, Levi was found guilty of murdering 19-year-old Marsha McDonnell and 22-year-old Amélie de Langrange. Both of those young women had been bludgeoned to death in random attacks while they were out in public. But that wasn't all Levi was convicted of. He was also found guilty of the attempted murder of 18-year-old Kate Sheedy. Levi had spotted her walking along the street and rammed her with his car. He then left her for dead. Despite horrific injuries, she survived. After he was convicted of these crimes, Levi was named as a prime suspect in the Milly Dowler case, and there was good reason for this. You see, CCTV cameras on the road that Milly had vanished from hadn't caught her walking past a certain point, but they had caught a red Daewoo Nexia driving along the road over the time that Milly disappeared. That car had been owned by Levi's girlfriend, who lived in Surrey at the time. Levi had done an interview with the Daily Mirror in 2009 from prison, where he said, "There's not many red Daewoo's floating about in Walton-on-Thames, so we've got to be realistic about it," he said. "But then I've got to be careful about how I answer these questions. I did use the Daewoo once, and I was stopped by the police once in it for speeding. This car was never found, but in March 2010, 8 years after Milly was last seen alive, Levi was charged with her murder." Levi's trial began on May 10, 2011, and was over on June 23rd. It was a unanimous decision from the jury: guilty. The following day, Levi was sentenced to life imprisonment by Mr. Justice Wilkie, who recommended a whole life tariff due to Levi's previous crimes. Speaking about what Milly had to endure, the prosecuting barrister said, "On this day, an entirely innocent and quite ordinary diversion to a station cafe to buy some chips with some school friends was a decision that was to cost Milly her life, because it meant her taking a fateful journey along Station Avenue, where unbeknownst to her, her abductor and killer was soon to strike." It took 9 long years for Milly Dowler to receive the justice she deserved. While it was a relief to those who knew and loved Milly that her killer would pay for what he did, the fact that she had been so callously taken from them for no reason at all is something they will never get over. Had Levi Bellfield not been put away, it would have been a matter of when, not if, he committed further murders and attacks. He is proof of monsters walking among us and deserves to never see the light of day again. Thankfully, he never will, as he is the only British person to ever be given 2 separate entire life sentences.